Greetings, fellow citizens of the vast Obsidian community. Welcome to another video in the Obsidian for Noobs video series, featuring tutorials, tips, and tools for new users of the Obsidian personal knowledge management software. In today's video, as I promised in my last video, I'm going to demonstrate and discuss a CSS snippet that upgrades an Obsidian navigation panel by coloring the first and second level folder titles and also adding icons before those folder titles. This relatively simple CSS hack not only makes the Nav panel look significantly more appealing, but more importantly, it makes the various folders and subfolders stand out from the files and from each other, making them much easier to visually identify. I consider this CSS snippet to be the single most important and helpful of all the many snippets that I employ in all my vaults. The code for this CSS snippet is available for copying at my Obsidian for Noobs website on the About and Downloads page. I'll put the link in this video's description. Okay, let's see what this snippet does and how it does it. Here I am in an Obsidian vault with no themes installed and no CSS snippets activated. In the navigation panel, you can see that I've created a variety of notes, folders, and subfolders. In Obsidian's native state, the Nav panel is dull and boring, and worse, at least to me, it's not immediately obvious which items are folders, subfolders, or notes. I very much want the ability to easily distinguish folders, subfolders, and notes from one another at a glance. Luckily, a bit of CSS styling accomplishes that nicely. Let me activate the CSS snippet so that you can see the effect it has on the Nav panel, and then I'll go over the snippet's code so you can see how it works its magic. I'm going into Settings, Appearance, and scrolling down to CSS Snippets, and this is the CSS snippet that we'll be looking at today. When I click it on, you can immediately see the effect it has in the navigation panel. Obviously, there's a stark difference between the upgraded Nav panel and the default Nav panel. Let me call up an image of the way the Nav panel looked before I activated the snippet. And I'll show them side by side so you can really see the contrast. The main folders have been given a specific color, the subfolders a different color, and also icons have been placed in front of the folder names on the main level and on the sublevel. The main level folders, also known as the parent level, are colored cyan, and the first level subfolders, also known as the child level, are given a color of deep sky blue. Also, a folder icon has been placed in front of the main level folder names and a red square icon in front of the subfolder names. The effect of these two simple changes is remarkable. By the way, those icons are actually Windows emojis. Let's see how the snippet works and how you can tweak it to suit your own personal taste. Before I start, I'm going to activate another snippet I have for this vault. It enhances the color when you select text. I'm going to highlight the various parts of this CSS snippet as I talk about it. And you can see in its native state, the selection or highlight is barely visible. So let me just go into my snippets again and activate this snippet. Now when I highlight something, it's clearer. Okay. Also, let me zoom in. That's Control and plus to zoom in. Control and minus zooms out, and Control and 0 returns you to the normal zoom state. This is the snippet that accomplishes this Nav panel enhancement. Before I begin, let me mention that I found this CSS code on a forum on the internet. I wanted to add color and icons to my navigation panel folders, but I had no idea how to do it. I always first try to do CSS coding myself, but when I can't figure it out, I go searching on the internet for the code. When I find it, I study it, trying to figure out how it works. In this way, I'm learning CS a little bit at a time. For this snippet, I first found just the code to change the colors of the folder names. And then later, I found code that set the icon or the emoji in front of the folder names for the main level. And then what I did was, looking at both of those, and by a lot of trial and error, I figured out the code to set an icon or an emoji in front of the second level folders. So this is mostly code I found with a little tweaking on my part as I began to learn how it works. All right, I'm going to go over this code in a fair amount of detail just so you can see how it's doing what it does. The first thing to mention is that anything you see contained between slash asterisk and asterisk slash is a comment. Its purpose is to convey information to a human who is reading the code. It is not executed as part of the code. So for example, this is a comment here. What I do is for every one of my snippets, I begin them with a comment that simply says what the snippet accomplishes. In this case, sets text color and icons from main level and first child level folders. Since this snippet is a little bit more complex than my usual snippets, I've also put some comments throughout the body of the snippet to identify what the various parts do. Okay, let's look at the key parts of this code in the order of appearance. First, this part. Period nav hyphen folder means target folders in the navigation panel. That's talking about folders in general at this point. The greater than symbol indicates one level deep, meaning the main level or parent level. And the last part of that code, which is this part, means assign the color cyan to the folder titles. So it's saying we're talking about folders in the navigation panel. We're going one level in, that's the first level, the parent level. And what we want to do is set a color to the title of the folder, of the folders on that level. In particular, in this case, the color cyan. Now for this next command, period nav hyphen folder hyphen children is referring to the next level down, which is the first child level or the first level of subfolders. And what it's saying here is set the color of those titles to this value, which is a hex number, which I believe is deep sky blue. Some colors have words assigned to them. Not all colors do. And for the ones that don't, or for any of them, there is a hex code representing that color. So this line of code is similar to the first line of code, except it's bringing it down another level. Right? The children level, we have two of these. We're referring to folders, and we're specifically targeting the titles and assigning a color to them. This command creates a space before the folder name where content can be inserted, and then it inserts a folder emoji as the content in that space. The other code after it involves positioning the folder icon properly with respect to the folder name. In a similar manner, this line of code here places a red square emoji in front of the second level subfolder titles. And again, I kind of figured this one out by trial and error, employing what I learned here from the code that I had found on the internet. Also notice that I've assigned a value here to indent the titles of the subfolders, so that not only do they stand out by their emoji icon and their color, but also by their relative positioning in comparison to the main folder titles. Okay, so that's how the code of this snippet works. It assigns a color to the main level, parent level folder titles. It assigns a different color to the first subfolder level titles. And it assigns a folder emoji to the titles of the main level folders and a red square emoji in front of the titles of the sub-level folders. A nice added benefit of CSS snippets is that you can change the values assigned to the variables in the snippet to suit your own personal taste and needs. In the case of this snippet, you can change the colors assigned to the folder titles, and you can also change the emoji that is placed before the folder titles. Let's change one of the colors. Okay, I have this CSS snippet now open in Windows Notepad. If you've seen some of my other videos about CSS, you know that your code for your CSS snippets must be in a plain text editor. Windows Notepad works nicely, so does Notepad++, and there are others as well. You cannot use Word or any word processing software. It must be a plain text editor. The code here is exactly the same as the code you saw in my vault. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of the main level folders from cyan to red. I'm changing it right in the code of the snippet in Windows Notepad. And then I'm going to save that snippet with a CSS file extension. You can give the file any name you want, but the extension must be CSS. Remember, Notepad by default puts a TXT file extension. So you have to change that to CSS. I'm going to navigate to the folder where I have this vault. Okay, this is the folder for the vault that I'm working in. I open the .obsidian folder, and I open the snippets folder, and that's where I'm going to save this snippet. Now it's already there. I've changed the value in it. I've changed the color of the main level folder titles from cyan to red. So when I go to save it, it's going to ask me if I want to replace it, and I do. When I save it, we should see the color of the main folder titles change from cyan to red. Here we go. And there it is. It's an instantaneous change. I've pointed out in other videos that once you've created a CSS snippet and you've saved it to the snippets folder of your vault and you've activated it in settings, you can then play around with the values in the snippet and resave it and have the change occur instantly. So you can fool around with these and see exactly what you like until you get it appearing in a way that suits your own tastes. If I change this to blue, no, let's change it to green and save it. The folder's changed to green. I'm going to put it back to cyan. Okay, so that's how you can experiment with values in your snippets once you've created the snippet, saved it to the snippets folder, and activated it in settings. Okay, as for the emoji, we can change that as well. Simply highlight the emoji. Let's do it down here in the subfolders. I'm highlighting just that emoji. And then I'm going to call up the Windows emoji selector by holding the Windows key down and pressing the period key. And then I'm going to select an emoji. In this case, since the subfolder titles are this bluish color, I'm going to select this square. You could see it's been replaced in the code. I can get rid of this now. And now when I save the CSS snippet, we should see these little red squares turn into the blue square. And there it is. So again, just to review, you have a CSS snippet, you save it to the snippets folder of your vault, you activate it in settings, and then you can go ahead and change the values. In this case, colors or the emojis. And as I said, you can experiment with it until you find a combination of colors and emojis that suits your taste. As I stated earlier, the code for this CSS snippet is available for copying at my Obsidian for Noobs website. I'll put the link to the website in the video's description, and I'll go there now so you can see it. Okay, here's the Obsidian for Noobs website. The code is on this last page, About and Downloads. If you scroll down to where it says Downloads, you'll see several CSS snippets here. This is the one we're talking about. This is the one I'm demonstrating in this video, Nav Panel Enhancement CSS Snippet. Simply click on this text here. It'll open the box, and you can copy the code, paste it into Windows Notepad, save it with the name of your choice, but with a CSS file extension in the snippets folder of any of your vaults, and turn it on in settings, and you'll have that effect. And then, as I just demonstrated, you can change the colors if you want to. You can change the emojis if you want to. So the code's available here. Also available from previous videos is the code to make borderless tables. I have a video of how you can have multi-column text in Obsidian Note, and it utilizes this code to basically make the borders of tables invisible. And I have the code for my CSS master snippet here. That's that very long snippet that I put in all of my vaults that has all the various style changes and settings that, that appeal to me. I'm constantly updating this snippet for myself. I haven't updated it here. I have a video about it, and it appears here the way it was in that video, and I want to leave it that way so that if someone comes upon the video later and sees it, they're not going to get code different from what they see. One thing I've done in my current version of the master snippet is I've updated these two CSS snippets, and I've replaced them with the one we're looking at today. Because this snippet here puts the folder icon in front of the folder titles, and this one changes the color of the folder titles. I had first, as I said earlier, I learned these two snippets separately. I found each one of them separately on the internet, and I was using them as I found them. And then I decided that I wanted to also set the color for the first level subfolders, and I wanted to put an icon in front of them as well. So I did a little bit more research, and using these two as a starting point and the research I found, I came up with the snippet that we're looking at today. So there you have it, a CSS snippet to enhance and upgrade your navigation panel's appearance. The effect of this CSS snippet not only makes your nav panel more aesthetically appealing, it creates a visual hierarchy of folders in the nav panel that makes it easier to distinguish folder levels at a glance. Visual attractiveness and practical utility, a true win-win situation. Okay, fellow Obsidizens, that's all I have for now. I'll see you in the next video. Happy note-taking.